Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you all coming to listen about our journey as Salesforce and where we are today. My name is Reggie Walker. I lead our global alliance with Salesforce, and I also was one of our executive sponsors when we rolled out Salesforce globally a few years back. And with me today, I've got some of my partners to talk about our experiences currently today. Em Rivette. Em is our technology sector leader based here in the Bay Area, and also one of our lead client partners of one of our large client relationships. We've got Matt Gresco. Matt joined us a couple of years ago. And Matt, I think when you came in a couple of years ago, you weren't in the door of 5 days, you were already talking about Slack. So Matt's going to talk about Slack and our utilization of it and what we're doing there. And then somebody we refer to as the OG, Cornell Nolte. Cornell actually was the partner that started our Salesforce practice years ago. And is now our operations leader for consulting, but he's going to talk a bit about how we're using the platform from an operations perspective. So really, thank you, partners, for being here. And again, thanks, everybody. And just to give you a little perspective on our journey, we started back, I think it was about 2016 now, on our journey, maybe even a little bit before that. We made some strategic decisions as a firm that there were some things that we needed to improve globally from both a process and technology perspective. And one of those areas we really needed to improve was the connectivity of our partners around the world so that we had better visibility into how we were serving our clients, what we were doing, the conversations that were going on with our clients, and also to provide a much better client experience. To give you some perspective, at that time we had, I think it was around 57 or 58 unique CRM systems around the world. And I know a lot of companies experience the exact same thing. So we didn't have a single source of truth. It was very challenging if we were serving a client for folks to know what we were doing in different parts of the world. You have to pick up the phone. It's very inefficient. So that was one of the big strategic imperatives for us to implement Salesforce. And we've been now on that journey since 2016, and we've had tremendous success with it. And so today we're going to kind of give you an update on where we are today and the journey we've come on. We've made some pretty impressive progress. So, Em, I'm going to start with you because in your role, you're driving the firm strategy in our technology sector and what we're doing there. You're working with our partners to drive growth in that sector. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about how you're using Salesforce today and maybe how it's come along and what you're doing and how you're using it to run that sector.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And good morning or good late morning. So definitely and you know that, Reggie, but we're a very client-centric organization and we're very focused on delivering outcome for our clients. So what that means is we need to relentlessly listen to the market, listen to our clients, not only because it informs the type of competencies that we need to mobilize or develop, the resources that we need, the thought leadership we may have to develop, as well as where we need to prioritize our investments. And Salesforce is the place that we go to for demand understanding and take the related strategic decisions. It kind of, for me, it's like the application that cuts through the noise, right? Because it's just client information, client discussion, and that's it. So to give you a couple of examples, and we're avid users of analytics on Salesforce, we use it to identify or spot trends in the topics of conversations that our clients are having, again, to adjust some of our resources there. We use it also to identify what are the needs of our clients as identified through the opportunities that are logged in Salesforce. But also, quite frankly, we also assess constantly how clients are responding to our solutions and services and whether we need to adjust them there or not. So in summary, a big input into our strategy for growing the sector.
You know, and I'll ask the partners this, and this is one of those unprepared ones, but I have to follow on for a second on this one because, when we started the journey, we really asked our partners to make it easy for adoption to really do 5 things right at that time. And 5 simple things, to update their contacts, to actually log in, to log an opportunity, but just to get them going. But today, that's expanded dramatically. And Em, I guess I would ask, are you seeing a lot more usage in that regard, way beyond what we used to have?
Yeah, like any new system adoption, you kind of have to incentivize people to use it. And I remember we had gamified the use of the platform and we're getting points if we were using different features, et cetera. But now it's almost like a must-use, right? Because we use a single instance globally of Salesforce. Most of our clients are global clients. And it's just like you can't stop but seeking that transparency around what's happening across our client base. And that's really important for us, as I mentioned, to inform our strategy.
That's outstanding. You know, Matt, I mentioned when you came in a couple of years ago, I mean, this was one of the first things you talked about was Slack, right? And you looked at our platform and you looked at ways that you thought we could be utilizing the platform much better. And this was one of the areas. So why don't you talk a little bit about how we're utilizing Slack now? And by the way, Slack is not something that we had at that time. And quite frankly, Matt is one of the big reasons we're using it now. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, Reggie, happy to. So if we think about and spend a few minutes about sort of how we're currently using Slack as well as how we're seeing, leveraging it in the future, one thing that's really important about our journey with Slack that we bring to our customers as well is we actually spent a ton of time identifying value drivers for where and how we thought Slack would make sense for the organization. And so things like how can we improve quality, reduce time, drive more collaboration, how can we use more repeatable assets? And so in thinking about that, that informed a big part of how we rolled out Slack. It informed the governance model, it informed the technical design, even informed the channels and the nomenclature of the channels and who would actually get licenses. So once we went through that activity, we identified 3 main areas that we wanted to leverage Slack initially. The first was from an alliance perspective, right? Obviously with Salesforce, but also some of our other partners. How can we think of this concept of early and often, right? How can we communicate more proactively, more often, and get ahead of that and not be so reliant on when can we get time on a calendar and when can we wait for more information to come? As we have it, let's share it. We've certainly seen tremendous results there. The second area that we focused on was from a marketing perspective. We have a lot of different individuals that are participating in marketing events, right? You have the people that are planning it, you have the participants, the approvers, the attendees, right? And so we said, how can we streamline that activity, create some dedicated channels for those events? And what we've seen, actually from a metric perspective, because we did the analysis, just some examples, we've seen almost a 30% decrease or deflection in email traffic around those events, which is significant. In addition, we've seen almost a 40% increase in things like productivity from the people that are participating in those events, just because it's such a more streamlined process. The final area that we focused on initially was really that internal knowledge sharing. And this one's really exciting for us because we're a global firm, right? And so we have people across in different time zones doing different things. And so what I was really excited about was we had a few of our leaders going overseas visiting one of our acceleration centers, and typically they give a summary of what happened for the day. Well, historically, that would occur via an email or wait a week or two until everyone can get in a room together and say, let's tell what we did that week. Instead, we leveraged clips. They recorded short video snippets at the end of the day. They were emotional. They were contextual. They talked about what they read that day. People could either see it in real time or async. They could view it. It's annotated, so if you wanted to read it and not see the video, you could do it. And so those 3 areas, we've seen some real improvements in those areas. If I spend one more minute on sort of where we think it's going, 2 areas that we're looking at right now, from an engineering perspective, obviously it's a tool of choice for engineers. It has been for many, many years. We've done a bit of a pilot in one region, and one of the things that we've seen there is almost a multi-million-dollar improvement from a capacity standpoint by eliminating mundane tasks and automating some integrations with other applications. And then finally, for our own thing, one of the things we do with our customers is, business model reinvention, right? How can we think about things in a different way? And so we're thinking specifically around sales. And to your point with how we've put the customer at the center, we're thinking about how we can use things, some of them that were talked about today with some of the announcements, Elevate and Sales Home. How can we bring forward our sales process with our contracting process? How can we leverage Slack GPT to push notifications, activities, tasks out to our partners and individuals that work in our customers to be more efficient? And finally, we're looking at ways, how can we automatically create account plans? And how can we summarize meetings and automatically push out action items? So from my perspective, it's a start. We're not there yet, but certainly excited about the experience we've seen thus far.
Matt, you touched on something that I thought was really important. One of our other strategic objectives when we implemented it, obviously we wanted to see our revenue grow and the client experience get better, but we also wanted to give our people time back. Because we used to have to spend a lot of time going around the firm to find information, to make phone calls, and then how often it took a lot of time. And that was one of the things that we found, and I think you just touched on one of the reasons why. I mean, the ability to automate a lot of what we're doing through the platform has made a significant impact.
Absolutely.
A couple statistics, and I'll throw some out as we're going along, but just to kind of play on this, since we've implemented it, our opportunity team size has increased over 33%. So just the teaming and the opportunity teams that are serving it, because more people have visibility now to opportunities, they contribute to it, and we're able to draw more people and get more people to our clients because they see that, and people that we may not have known before that could have participated. The number of opportunities with multiple product codes. So like most of you, we have product codes for a lot of our services. Those opportunities have increased over 184%. So in the past, we might single thread an opportunity for a client, when the reality is we have an opportunity to really take a look at it, and maybe there's multiple services that we should be delivering to deliver that solution. And we've been able to do that, and we've seen that, and we take that back to, again, the visibility that people have. So that's just a couple of stats around some of the things that we've seen. when I was leading the role of the platform, one of the areas that surprised me the most that I wasn't anticipating, and I think we learned a lot in that process, was the impact on operations. Because we talk a lot about what we're doing from a growth perspective, from a client experience perspective, from our contacts, from a marketing perspective, but we found tremendous benefit from an operations perspective. And Cornell, now, in your prior role where you were on the front lines and going on the go-to-market and growing the business, now you're helping to run the business. Tell a little bit about how you're using the platform now and how it's impacted the operations.
Absolutely, and good morning. So, Reg, as Em said, I think a big part of, we're obviously client obsessed and we're focused on delivering the outcomes, and I think it's part of, kind of what I've seen specifically in terms of our usage of Salesforce. Ultimately, it's about bringing the right team to the right opportunities and to the right accounts, or to the accounts. I think that's been a game changer for us in terms of being able to manage the teams that actually pursue the opportunities and support the accounts. And if you think about our business, it's, our consulting business is north of $25 billion globally. Our pipeline is $60 billion on a global basis. So M serves a global client. So everything is big. And I think I would be, to Reggie's earlier point, what we found is it was really hard to manage when you think about the size, the scale, the magnitude. And I think what Salesforce enabled us to do is really make sure we bring the right teams to the right accounts, to the right opportunities. It's given us that visibility. It's helped us to track the pursuit process and at various stages insert the right capabilities and assets and tools into that. So I think that's been a game changer for us ultimately in terms of how we serve our clients. I think it's also really helped us in terms of kind of, as you think about our clients, our economic buyers, how do you expand those centers? To your point earlier, right? We were world class at sending millions of emails and updates and things. Now it lives in one system, one place. I think it's been a significant it's driven significant increases in productivity for us in terms, and it's freed up time, to your earlier point, in terms of how do we really spend that time at clients, really drive it. So I think, as you think about clients, that's the one thing. And then I think ultimately also, Reggie, in terms of just holding our business accountable, right? I think in terms of how we measure pipeline, how we measure the velocity of it through the pipeline and how the opportunities move through the stages. And then ultimately just being able to kind of think through book to burn, and then ultimately forecast. We're a people business, right? Mm-hmm. So ultimately, how do you forecast the business to make sure we have the right people on the right account, on the right opportunities? So I think it's been a game changer. It's a journey. I think we'll just continue to enhance and drive and leverage AI in that process. But I think it's today and back in today is night and day from what it was 2016.
Okay. Cornell, maybe on that point of forecasting, I mean, how much better are we today at forecasting based upon the platform and what we see in it versus where we were years ago?
Well, I'll say this in a public, significantly better, right? I think in the past it was a couple folks in the audience knows this, right? Doing a bottoms up and being able to forecast the business was incredibly difficult because it was sitting in so many different systems. Now I have one source of truth, and I think when you think about our bottoms up and our ability to forecast not only where we're going to end, from a revenue pipeline wins perspective, but also being able to then translate in that in terms of how do we have the right people on the right opportunity, on the right account as day and night from what we had before.
One of the things, for that to work, it takes our people and our partners engaging with the platform. It's only as good as the information that goes into it and how often they use it. I will say, I'm very proud to say, our partners alone, and trust me, in our business, those that might be in professional services firms understand that. We have a mind of our own. We'll do it sometimes. We don't always do it. But our 30-day login percentage has remained steady since we went live back in 2017. And that's at over 88%. So that means on a monthly basis, over 88% of our partners log in on a regular basis, update the platform, and contribute to it and work it. And so I think that's really important. And Em, maybe that comes back to you on this, because I know one of the ways I sit on your leadership team calls, I listen to everything that's going on.
Thank you.
But one of the things I know that you do and our partners do, and our lead client partners in particular, is collaboration and how they use the platform. And one of the ways that we're in it all the time is because of the visibility it gives us. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you're engaging the teams and what you see.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's cut through the noise, go to the platform to just focus on client. And that's where client conversations are taking place. But I talked about how it informs our strategy, and we use a chatter channel, obviously, to push down our strategic priorities to all the partners, since the majority of them are frequently on the platform. But then from a bottom-up standpoint also, it helps us keep a pulse on the market, and we get a lot of conversation from our partners who are serving clients globally and informing us of what they're seeing, what's working, what's not working. So that two-way conversation is super critical in order to stay together. And by the way, there are those conversations where almost every other day there is an instance where yesterday one of our semiconductor client in the US was asking about something that the partner was asking the community, because we have communities that are organized in the chatter groups. And so that is a great flexibility that we use, great feature we use. And that partner was looking for something that we found, we delivered in Korea, South Korea, at another semiconductor client. So super powerful in terms of timely responding to clients' requests.
You know, I too, like I'm a lead client partner as well, and I would tell you from my perspective, my ability to manage the relationship and the experience that my client has is so much better because I can see every day, first thing I'll do, I'll log in the morning. I can see the meetings scheduled for that day and all any partner around the world and who's meeting with my client or our client that I lead. And I see that, I see those meetings, I see the results of those meetings, I see the conversations going on, I see the opportunities that are popping in. And then I'm able to engage with our teams around those opportunities and ask questions like, you know, tell me a little bit more about this, or have you considered adding these people to it? And people start piling into the conversation, and then I can mention others in chatter and bring them into the conversation. Yeah. So we are able to more holistically serve our clients as a result of that, and it's made a tremendous impact. You know, Cornell, one thing I would love for you to, you mentioned our people for a moment. I would love for you to maybe touch on that a little bit more about how you see it's impacted our people and how they utilize it and what it's done for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, the core components of what it is to be at PwC is all around teaming and the behaviors that drives around that. So if you think about, you know, once again, if I compare, you know, 8 years ago versus today, I think the lack of visibility we had before, I think it significantly hindered the opportunities our people had. Right today, we have clear visibility. It's linked into our staffing and deployment solutions. I think the visibility that our people, the 65,000 people in the US have, is given us an amazing opportunity to put the right people in the right opportunities. Not only do that for the benefit of our clients, but also give our people opportunity to explore new opportunities. Right? They may be in one functional area, and I think the visibility is provided opportunity in terms of you know, what else may be out there. I think originally one thing I'll say is like back to the conversation around continuous improvement. We are actually implementing Certinia, which is a staffing and deployment solution that is on the Salesforce platform to really do that closed loop all the way from the opportunity to how do we staff. So I think at the end of the day for our people, it's given them the visibility, it's given them the opportunity, and just in terms of managing the business is also being able to give us a level of precision in terms of how to forecast what we need where, right? So if you get ultimately, it's an incredibly dynamic labor market. So if there is one specific hard skill in the past, it was harder for us to assess what you're going to need when. Is it a month from now? Is it 3 months from now? And to M's point, I think that the insights that the pipeline providers, what's driving demand, where are we seeing it's going, is enabled us to really kind of look around the corner, if you will, in terms of what resources we need where, and not just the types of resources, but also locations, right? So I think that's critical as our clients grow and evolve. I think it's in my mind been instrumental in helping us get a lot better at doing that. So.
Yeah, maybe one of the things that should give the audience a perspective on is the scope of our implementation. I mean, we've got sales, we have service, we have marketing cloud. We use it as a platform. In fact, our risk management processes, as a regulated firm and what we have to do, we have extreme risk management processes that have to go around for client acceptance and engagement acceptance. All of that's on the platform now, and we automated it. We made it much easier. Going back to the idea of the ability to give time back to our people and find efficiency points. One of the hangups were how long it took to open up an engagement code. Yep. And now it goes straight. We automated the entire process. Once an opportunity gets marked as one, it kicks off the process to client acceptance or engagement acceptance and setting up the right codes. And we've taken a lot of time out of the process by doing that. So, we've been able to extend the platform way beyond where we started.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one you mentioned the stat up front around the size of opportunity teams. Ultimately, we want to bring the right team to the right client and the right opportunities. I think that for us, that stat said it all, right? Ultimately, we're much nimbler in terms of being able to get the right resources there, and ultimately, the goal is to drive client value and outcomes. And I think that's been a tremendous, benefit that the platform brought, introducing to PwC. And I think just as you think about how we serve our clients and how we actually have visibility to what you and Em just said it, like our visibility into the economic buyers and the centers, and then what within industries and sectors actually resonates across other clients, I think has helped all of us be better in the market.
Yeah, this question is for all three of you, as we look sort of where we are today and even looking ahead a bit, right? So we recently made an announcement of $1 billion investment in AI. And that $1 billion investment in AI is really structured around three main areas. One is going to be, what do we take to our clients and how do we serve them? Two is what we do to automate the firm, right? And how do we really take a look at the firm and how we automate the firm? And then the third area really being around, like the tools that we provide our people,
right,
and how they actually work with our clients. So maybe talk a little bit about, as it relates to our platform and what we're looking at there and what we're seeing, and this is for all three of you, on how that investment is going to impact how we use Salesforce and the things that we're looking at going forward.
You want me to start?
I want you to, it'd be great for you to start. Anybody.
Okay, I'll start. Well, I talked about how we're like analytics junkies, and to be honest, like we've already experimented with Einstein, and it's accelerating the speed at which we're getting insight, and we're able to identify those trends that we need to react to for resource planning, etc., or service formulations. But the other thing that I'm pretty excited about is also how it's going to help us with some of the latest features that have been introduced to mine the significant amount of data we have accumulated on our clients, obviously in the proper way and compliant with all the regulations, but trying to get perhaps new insights and new identified new things that perhaps we're not yet acting upon. So I'm pretty excited about that side of the platform.
Matt, anything that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think one area that we're certainly seeing, whether it's Slack specific or not, but certainly, I know there's a lot of focus on is, how can we push out information, to execute on, whether it's actions, activities, notifications, but then how do you make the response to that even easier, right? Because it's not just about notifying someone about that information, it's how do you actually make the execution of that easier? And so I think that's where a lot of focus is, especially on the Slack side, and there's been some really cool announcements this week of sort of streamlining that user experience and making sort of those workflow tools and those automation tools not require developer, not require code. And so if you push it out, how can we make that end user just execute on those things as quickly as possible, not having to navigate to another application, which is lost productivity, right? And so I think a lot of focus will be on sort of combining that AI piece with sort of the execution of the workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go just where all of us grew up, right? When you think about a client service perspective, I think what the AI and the investment's really going to enable us on the client service side is kind of twofold. One is, I think, just our ability to build on Salesforce AI and provide solutions for our clients. For example, some of what we're doing around the contact centers, et cetera. I think that ultimately is going to drive significant value to our clients. Secondly, in terms of just our ability to leverage that in our delivery, right? I think we're accelerating our ability, we're accelerating delivery, i.e. it's going to drive outcomes and value faster. So I think part of the investment there is going to benefit not just in terms of our ability to go execute and deliver, but also how quickly the clients get to value and how quickly we can deliver that value. So I think from a client service delivery value to the client, I think it's obviously a game changer. Then from an internal perspective and operational, I think our ability to, I think we've touched on this, to forecast the business, understand where it's going to be, and link that back to kind of the resource capacity, what it's providing for us is a whole different level of access on the data set that we have, as Em mentioned, right? So I think it's going to be an evolution as we go through it. Also, we're training 65,000 people in the US. We'll train 300,000 globally. So at the end of the day, I had a cool story about somebody working on a specific client, right? Being able to leverage the AI to really understand and accelerate their understanding that may be new to that account, what's in there, how it is, contextualize what they're going to deliver on, and almost at a self-service level, being able to do something, in a couple hours. It might have taken a week of research. So I think it's just the applications of it's endless, right? So I think I'm really excited in terms of how it's helping us enhance how we deliver value to our clients and how we do it internally.
That's outstanding. Yes.
Actually, when you mentioned about the investments, one of the things that, if you don't mind, I would add is part of that investment is obviously in support of investing in our clients, for our clients, and with our partners. And because we're a customer zero of Salesforce, since we've been on the platform for years now, and we're experimenting with AI, that has allowed us to invest in building this AI COE for Salesforce, which is really helping clients build on top of the initial AI capabilities of the platform, augment them, make them more customized to their needs, but doing that in a way that's responsible and that is trusted. And so going, and we call it the center of excellence, because we go all the way from data strategy to development, deployment, and then controls, monitoring, governance. So just one of the things that we're putting those dollars to work for.
Yeah, and so, it's interesting as we talk about that and talk about looking forward. We've been sitting here at Dreamforce, a lot of announcements, obviously AI. By the way, we are, just to give you perspective, we're also a beta customer from I guess it's now Einstein 1. Yep. But we are a beta customer, and we're starting to use it and learn, just like everybody else, how to use it. Is there anything that you've seen here this week that, outside of what we've talked about, that's interesting that you think we'll be able to use and extend the platform a bit?
Yeah, I think, from my world, right, obviously, being the guy that's laser focused on Slack at the moment, as I mentioned, I think just, the sort of the new renewed focus on sort of that, how do we sort of transform businesses in some of the core areas that they've been on the platform for a number of different years, sales and service. I think there's a lot of focus on how do you evolve that even further, right? It's one thing to say I use the platform for that. It's another thing to say my business has changed, my customers has changed, and how do I relook at my implementation, find some of these new tools, whether they're through acquisition, through AI, but how do I apply those and really think about the way that I need to change my business? I heard a lot of conversation this week around that, and I think that's going to be a key part of, it's no longer good enough to just say I use the platform. It's how do I take the platform and adapt it to the new way that I need to interact with my customers to truly survive, right, in the market that you operate, whatever sector that might be.
One thing, and I will add on too, that we learned, and for those of you that are on the same journey that we are, adoption is a constant process. It just is, right? You got to constantly, I think the saying we usually use is go live is not day one, it's year one, it's year two, it's year three, and there's always something new. What are some of the ways that, and Cornell, I often think of Mohammed and when he's running his calls, what are some of the ways that we're continuing to get people to use the platform and really engage with it from the way that we lead by?
Yeah, ultimately it's living on the platform and using it, right? If I think back in terms of the number of reports we had to produce, daily, weekly, monthly, in terms of just to not only just report the news, if you will, right, and the financial results, but also on the forecast. I think the amount of man hours or human hours we put into having to do that was significant. Today, maybe at a granular level, if you think about our US consulting business on a weekly basis, we run the pipeline out of Salesforce. We live in there. It gives us an update in terms of where we are on all the large opportunities. I think when you drill it down into the various P&Ls we have, and those P&L leaders and their extended leadership team leverage it. And I think if I think about just if I compare it to, let's say, 8 years ago before we had Salesforce, the amount of traffic there was around updates, the size of PowerPoint decks back then when we used PowerPoint was significant. Now I think for us it's become a culture, and I think we've learned from adoption perspective, you got to lead from the front. Like to your point, it's like Mohammed runs it out of, Mohammed's our CEO from our consulting business, runs it out of the system. I think the P&L owners do it, and I think ultimately that has driven a significant increased adoption, and just you see kind of the rest of the leadership team kind of use that as well, right? So, but to your point, it's a journey, right? And I think it starts being influencing it from the top on down, and then and making it delightful from an experience perspective. Ultimately, if the technology is hard to navigate and use, people are going to stay away from it, right? In my experience, but I think our Salesforce deployment and how we've layered it has made it, whether it's on the mobile, your iPad, or your desktop, whatever it may be, it's made it delightful, right? And I think that helps in the adoption process all through that.
Yeah. And Reggie, one thing I'll like, just because, as you mentioned, I was newer and, I only knew Salesforce at, PwC. I think one of the things that I find drives adoption from my perspective as a newer partner, right, was the historical side of the house, right? For me, when I joined, right, and knowing accounts that I was going to focus on, I looked across and I can get a global view across all of our service areas, but also globally from a regional perspective to say, where have we done business? Where do we have relationships, right? What have we done? For me, that drives adoption, right? That's the source of information that I need that I can't get out there publicly facing. And so for me, I think for anyone that's newer, it really helped from that adoption standpoint to just figure out where should I focus.
You touch on our culture of teaming. I think that might have been you as well. But the platform really enables that, right? Because as you said, there is a lot of collaboration that happens on the platform where there's a lot of knowledge sharing and information crossing and collaborations that otherwise was kind of a little bit clunky, particularly at the global scale.
Yeah, no, it used to be very clunky back in the global scale. You know, and maybe the time that we've got left, I don't know if the audience has any questions. If you do, you know, feel free to come up to the mic. We just have a little bit more content, but if you guys want to ask any questions of the team and kind of what their experiences are, be happy to have any questions from anyone. You covered a lot of ground is what you've done today. Any you know, any final words that you guys would have, you know, as you're looking at, again, our deployment. By the way, one thing I would say is we're pretty advanced, and I don't say that to say that we're, you know, special in that regard, but we've been able to, throughout the global firm, do a lot of different things with the platform that we're now able to look at clients. And I would say one of the things that we've really been able to learn is as we go out and experiment with new solutions, whether it be Slack, whether it be what's happening now with Einstein 1 and others, is how we take that out to clients and the things that we've been able to do with that. Any specific things that you've seen there, or do you want to add to that? Or
Maybe I'll add one thing when you were talking about what we're excited about all the AI features coming in. One thing that we've observed through all the analytics we've been running is how in a more complex digital world where there are more and more partners collaborating on an opportunity or a client needs evolves over time. And so what I'm excited about for our sector is having this predictability or the prediction capability in Einstein, where you can, based on prior experience, infer where your opportunity is going to go. Because sometimes it starts with an automation use case and then it evolves into a more fulsome transformation. So I think that visibility and prediction in where an opportunity is going to evolve is going to be critical in timely serving our clients. I'm excited about that.
I mean, I think the only thing I'd add is, you know, we're seeing, you know, now the cross-pollination across industries and sectors from a learning perspective is what everyone's doing, right? And so PwC and how we use these products is a great test bed to bring it forward. And so I think one of the things we're also doing, you know, again, if we think about Slack, is everything we're doing, we're now embedding into the assets that we build, the solutions that we build across industries and sectors, across all the capabilities in cloud, and saying, where do these different products plug together? And what have we learned about that we can bring to a customer to drive higher adoption on their side as well? Because again, we're doing it at such a large scale. If we can do it well at that scale, we can bring that down to the customer's needs and be effective.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And to that point, I'd say, listen, ultimately, 300,000 people globally that serve clients in 150 plus countries across the world. I think what the technology is doing and what the advancement is helping bring those insights, that knowledge base, you know, to our various clients, right? I think the sectors, the industries, as Emma well knows, are kind of merging, whether it's fintech, whatever you may do. Maybe I think that the ability to bring the insights from those 300,000 people that serve clients every day in multiple countries across the world to bear to Em's account or Reggie, your account, I think that you know, I think as the market, and it's a very dynamic market, as it continues to change, it helped us stay ahead of where the change is, and that's a bold statement, right? Change happens really quick, but at least enable us to be on the front end of that and be able to look around the corner, if you will, in terms of what's next. Well, and honestly, that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to as we look forward with Einstein 1 and everything else, is that it's going to be our ability to really tap into the data even better. So even though we're better today than we were in the past, going forward, I think it's going to be incredible, because the amount of data that we produce as an organization, it's difficult to navigate all of it, and our ability to do that is going to be pretty amazing. Any final thoughts on anything? Any advice for anyone that you'd like to share before we sign off? Not to put you guys on the spot. You covered it all? Yeah, it's a journey. I think that's the beautiful thing about it, right? You continue to evolve and improve on it, and I think it's there's more to come. Yeah, it's amazing. When I sat here, I think it was 5 years ago, and the first conversation was we had just gone live, and it was a very simple conversation, but the experiences that we had just through that process, and now I sit to where we are today, pretty proud of where it's come. It's pretty amazing, and it's pretty amazing. You know, Salesforce has been with us along the journey, all the way, and helping us out. So, and it's incredible, and with the leadership of you guys, it's been outstanding. So, partners, I want to thank you all for this. Audience, if you have any questions, feel free to stay after. Well, we have a question in the back. You want to?
I think we can hear you.
I think we can hear you.
Yeah.
Cornell, you want to?
Yeah, so it's actually, I would say there's more than one, right? If I think about the one that I look at the most in running the business from an ops perspective is pipeline velocity, right? So how, not only the growth of your pipeline, but how are you actually moving your opportunities through the stages in the pipe. I think that's one thing in terms of running the business that I think myself and the business leaders and the P&L owners ultimately look at. I think if I then look at it, the other angle, the one that I consider even more important, it is the strength of relationships that we have at our accounts, right? Our ability to, on M's account, be able to look at the economic buying centers, look at the economic buyers, and being able to assess how are we doing, how are we penetrating it, what is the value we're bringing, what's the cadence of how we meet with it. I think that's probably the one. So there's a little bit of a different, M probably have a look at, wake up every morning and have a look at, that component. From an ops perspective, it's probably the pipeline velocity. But I think the combination of those two really gives you a really good sense and feel on where you are relative to individual accounts, relative to individual parts of your business.
Are you able to follow on this? Are you able to get to that information?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are.
And yeah, I would say particularly because of the ability to customize reports and dashboards. So whatever we need is defined, locked, and then it gets pinged to us. And so that's how you kind of quickly look at what you need in an efficient fashion.
One of the things I would say, and I used to run our sales organization, so I would tell you, we did, after we had a couple of years and we had a couple of years of data and usage, we really wanted to zero in on what were the key performance indicators that really predicted success. So it's one thing to look at the scoreboard and see what the score is. Like, we know we want to drive average deal size larger. We know that we want to have opportunity teams being larger because we know that those things help. But even things like tracking how many meetings are happening, the level of executive, like we and our partners put in, like relationships and the economic buying centers, the breadth of those economic buying centers by client, the number of meetings that are happening, the number of times those meetings are happening, all of that were keys to success, we found. So it wasn't just looking at it and saying how much did the pipeline grow or what is the average deal size or even velocity. It was even taking it down to that level, and that way we were able to coach our teams and say, here's what success looks like. You need, like, successful teams are meeting this often. Successful teams have economic buying centers that stretch across the organizations. Successful teams are doing this or they're doing that. So we were able to even take it to that level. And I'm hopeful that now from an AI perspective, we're going to even find more information that is beneficial to us, because it could differ by geography, it differs by segment of our business, because we have obviously different business segments that we have to look at. And our ability now to tap into that, I'm really interested to get to that. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but that's, again, part of the journey. We'll probably learn more and we'll refine our approach and we'll coach our teams on how they can get even better at what they do. Sure.
No problem.
Any other questions? Partners, thank you. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time today. Thanks, and thanks to all of you for being here.
Thank you so much.